Navigating today's real estate market can be tricky. Want to buy or sell a house, finance or insure a house, or stuck with a house and don't know what to do? Florida Talk Real Estate has been your local one-stop real estate shop since 2012. Get the advice you need from your local real estate pros. Here are your hosts, Jim DePaola and Johnny C. live on Real Radio.
That's right. It's another beautiful day here in South Florida, and it's another great day to talk about real estate on the Florida Talk Real Estate Show. As you can hear, I'm having a really bad time with the headphones. Do you hear anything?
A little soft for you?
Mm-hmm. No, I got like this crackling noise. It's really filling my ears. I'm taking it off.
You sound good.
So, yeah. Okay. It sounds terrible on my headphones. Okay. So sorry about that, guys. As you can tell, Johnny C is not here today. It's Jimmy D all day long for 2 hours. We're going to be stuck with Jimmy D, 2-hour show. But we got, to save me, we got a lot of great guests on the show today. Of course, we got Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm. Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
That's right. Good morning. Doing great. I must be doing better than you are so far this morning. But I'll tell you what, by the time we get to the second hour, Jim, you're going to hit your stride, and you're going to be feeling good.
10:56.
The second hour at 59 minutes left. 59 minutes used of the second hour, so only 1 minute left.
I'll tell you what.
Get the hang of it.
If Johnny were here, he would have introduced Jimothy before he introduced me, though. Just FYI.
I'm sorry.
I said,
I'm sorry. I didn't hear. It.
I said you forgot to introduce our producer extraordinaire, Timothy, in the booth behind the scenes.
Oh,
making it happen.
I haven't finished introducing everybody.
But he does. He's first though. That's what I was
saying. Okay, sorry, Jimmy.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. But he doesn't have headphones.
Before quantity.
Jimmy does
so we got Jimmy.
Jimmy D does it his way.
Yeah, Jimmy. This is a Jimmy D show. So. Good morning, Jimothy. How you doing?
Good morning. He can't hear me, so it's all right.
He was really great trying to help me with all these technology problems. I can't even. I can't hear him because I have my headphones on. And we've got AJ, experiencedappraisal.com. Is that right? Experienced Appraiser is with an S.com. Thank you so much for coming in here, AJ. How long you been living down here?
Oh, since before air conditioning, I believe.
Yeah, before air conditioning.
Never gets old, does it?
That's BAC, right? Instead of BC, it's BAC, before air conditioning. Yeah. So it's funny. The reason why I'm bringing that up, I had to ask AJ for advice on some comps in West Palm this week, and I was telling the homeowner, yeah, AJ probably already knows that neighborhood. He's born and raised down here. He's been here forever. And then I talked to AJ, and he's like, yeah, I went fishing. I used to go fishing when I was a kid in the backyard of that lake before the development happened.
We used to do fish fries there when the lakes were dug, but the houses weren't built back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So AJ is a great person to ask about. We're going to talk today about property values and what we think is trending right now. We're going to talk a little bit about that with AJ. And we're also going to talk about handling properties when you're doing a probate. One of the things when you're doing a probate or an estate case, sometimes you have to do an appraisal, not today's appraisal, but the appraisal when the person that owned the house passed. And sometimes that's years before. So we're going to talk about that just real quick. Also, we got Jarrett Perry, CPA to the stars, in the show today. In the house. How you doing, Jarrett?
I'm great. Happy Mother's Day weekend, everybody.
Oh,
I got you guys covered. Don't worry.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom, and to every other mom out there and wannabe moms, happy Mother's Day. Jarrett is also owner of Renegades Sports and Entertainment, but I'm repping the old shirt, which is PPF, which is Player Performance First.
Yeah.
Let's just switch it back. I like that name better.
We might do that.
So the problem's the connection in the thing. So
now we got some momentum. We can do stuff like that.
Yeah. So Jarrett's got a lot of exciting news. We had one of our players who have a breakout year at the end of the year this year. So excited. And It's a real testament to Jarrett and his crew as to backing that person through the end until without question, just believed in that person. And now they're on a path to a great career, and I'm really excited about that. So we're going to talk about all that. And of course, we'll take your calls live on the air. We are live today. We're always live. It's May 11th or May 12th? May 11th, I think. That's right. May 12th is tomorrow. Happy Mother's Day. So we're live. We'll take your questions live on air. Do you have any questions about what's going on in the real estate? Do you have questions about homeowners insurance, mortgages, refis, buying a house? Is it a good time to sell the house? We can answer all of those questions, so much more. Maybe you have questions about taxes. This is a great time because we got Jarrett here from the Perry CPA group. So anybody that wants to call, all you got to do is call 877-927-6969. 877-927-6969. We'd love to take your calls today. So, guys,
I have questions about Mother's Day.
well,
Like, who's responsible for what on Mother's Day?
when you say who's responsible for what?
Like,
what
are
do
you
mean?
supposed to get gifts for your spouse because she's a mom, or do you only get gifts for your mom? That's my question.
Well,
I've always
You
been,
know what?
been confused about that.
You know what I did is she got it yesterday. I ordered
Oh, yeah?
a thing of roses that says "I love you, Mom,"
Yeah.
and I thought it was real 106 rose petal, like rose, the roses. But it ended up being decorative soap roses.
Oh, nice.
That sends the wrong message, I think.
No, but that'll last forever. That's awesome.
It'll last forever. That wasn't what I was looking for, but they did a good job selling it to me on Instagram, no doubt.
Oh, so you ordered online, kind of.
Yeah, it was one of those
sight
late
unseen.
night scrolling through Instagram. And you're like, oh, that looks great. I'm going to get that. And I didn't do enough reading, I guess.
It's funny. People used to do late night, like watching Home Shopping Network.
Yeah.
You're
Now
on
you scroll.
Instagram
Now you
shopping.
scroll.
4 CDs of all the hits from the
That's right.
80s, 90s, and today.
There we go.
I don't care. I like barfing. That was that story that Johnny told me when I first started the show before he even went on live on air. He's like, no barfing.
Uh-huh.
And I thought he meant
I
that I
agree.
was getting nervous and that I would get sick, nervous from public speaking. I go, I'm not too worried about that. And then he told me barfing was exactly what Jimothy did. Hey, we're on the radio show today.
No,
we're
I
a
was-
radio show guy.
I was talking about like you hear those late night 2 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
ads to buy all the hits
Yeah.
from the 80s,
Yeah.
right? It was all on one CD.
Rocco Records.
Yeah.
Rocco Records.
You did
You
that
know what's
really
funny?
good. I thought that was a clip that you had pulled up, and then I saw you actually.
I've been in the business a couple years. You got it right here. We're rocking with Jim DePola.
I think they still do run that. Like you can buy multiple CDs. So they're still selling CDs,
What's
like
a
from the
CD?
70s, it's from the 70s, 80s. Get that for Mother's Day.
Yeah, exactly.
How does that compare against the soap? Roses,
Soap,
right?
flowers.
Man, that's a
Which would you
hard-
rather
top
have?
that.
That's a hard choice right there.
Okay, so
That's
if
awesome.
we learned anything, you are supposed to help your kids take care of their mom, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think that's true.
The cats in my house ordered some nice flowers.
Oh, even that. Okay. What if it's
Up to what age, Mike?
what if it's your ex-wife? So it's still your kid's mom, but it's your ex. You gotta help out there, Jimmy.
35-year-old kids, you still got to get the flowers for them or what?
Yeah, you tell them to make a card.
I'm at the just the reminder stage. Like, hey guys, tomorrow's Mother's Day.
Yeah,
FYI.
Mhm.
exactly. Make a card.
So this week has been a little crazy week for me, but yesterday just was like anything that could go wrong was going wrong, right?
One of those
So,
days.
Day in the life of Jimmy D, right?
Murphy's Law there, right?
So I was waiting for an appraisal to come in, which we're going to talk about AJ a little bit. And the appraisal, what happened is we had a house that we put on the market and we were looking for an appraisal. We were waiting for that before we negotiated contracts. And the offers had to sit there. That was one of the many things that the attorney was requesting. And the offers were sitting there for almost a week and we were waiting to respond to the offers and we couldn't. So one of the buyers walked away at the last minute because we didn't get the stuff back at time. So that turned into craziness. The whole day, nothing was working technologically. Appointments canceled at the last minute, like pulling up to the driveway and canceled. Then I'm in the parking lot of this grocery store and actually getting something for a headache. And I, you know how when you pull out of the space and then you stop for a split second so you can adjust your wheel and then drive away?
Yeah.
Well, I was in that middle part, out of the space and I was stopped and I was turning my wheel and I'm looking in my rearview mirror and I see this car backing up and I couldn't hit the horn fast enough and it hit the back of my car.
Really?
And I was so late because I had a very important meeting with the private housing network,
Yeah.
which we're going to talk about. And I was like 40 minutes and I was going to miss that big meeting I needed. So I got outside. I got out of the car. The damage wasn't too bad for either of us. I asked everybody if they're okay. And then I acted like a total police officer. I said, give me your license, the registration and everything. And I took pictures of it, took pictures of where our car's situated, took pictures of the damage.
Gotta go.
Gave them my information and said, gotta go.
And
I just left.
Did they agree that they hit you, or was it like you
Yeah,
hit
they
us?
were. It was such minor damage, to be honest with you, because I'm not one of those people to take advantage of somebody. I'm going to go. It's a lease. What I'm worried about is like when I turn the lease back, are they going to bang me in a year?
Sure.
So I'm going to take the car into
Whether
the
you want it
lease
or
and
not.
make sure. Right. Yeah. And
by the end of the show, Jim's gonna be like, my neck hurts. I gotta get an attorney.
So I'm going to have to take it over to the dealership. But I know based on my schedule for this weekend and the rest of the week, it's not going to be till Wednesday. But we're hoping to settle it.
Though you can see it.
It's so minor. There's this like when the car pressed into my car on the cowl for the bumper, some of the screws underneath the cowl pushed through on the plastic part, right?
So
you can see it
from the inside out.
Yeah, but
you hit a cow?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. How did a cow get involved? I thought these were cars.
You never heard of cowl before? COWL? You never heard of it before? So anyway, just thing after thing. It was crazy yesterday, and
none
then
of that
today
sounds too bad. So when did it get bad for you?
The whole thing was just wrong. And then today, when I come in, all the technology for the camera work, just forget about it. I'm about ready to give up. 5 weeks.
It's all working.
Yeah, I know. This is a bad week. Bad week of stop sniffing glue. Right?
Yeah.
It's like so crazy. But we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. I want to do a couple shout outs. One of the shout outs is to Mindy, who put her house under contract yesterday. It was a probate case. We negotiated with a couple offers. We got a little bit over list price. I think we got like 102% of list price to sold price. Not too bad in today's market.
That's it, huh?
Yeah, sorry. I know I'm slacking, right? And I'm really happy for the family that's buying it because it sounds like they like the house very much. And there was a lot involved in that because the people selling it, the house is 1977 and the people selling it have never lived there. So they didn't know what works.
Wait, the people selling it have never lived there?
Yeah, because it's a probate case.
Oh.
So they can't tell you how old is the roof, how old's the AC, did you ever have any problems with the house? We don't know any of that. So
it's an estate-owned property.
So what we had to do is we got the family over to the law office of Paul A. Krasker. Paul Krasker felt based on the locality of the property was better because it was going to be a Broward County case. Referred us out to an attorney down there, Andrea D'Addario. Thank you so much. And then she gave us instructions of what we needed to do to put the house on the market, because when you're dealing with probate and estate cases, it can be very complicated and people don't know what's going on, and you can't just do things without knowing what your responsibilities are. So it took us about 3 weeks for the attorney to give us the okay to put the house on the market. Then we put it on the market, but we got offers right away. And then the attorney said, don't take any of the offers yet because you have to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, if you had told me that, I wouldn't have put it on the market already. And so then it took us a week to satisfy all the requirements for the attorney, and the offers sat there.
Is this Krasker's office? That's the attorney, or they had their own attorney? No, it was
their own. Yeah, there was a referral attorney. But I mean, they're not doing bad. It's just that the point I'm trying to make is that what you don't know can actually screw up a deal, and you've got to ask a lot of questions, and you got to ask questions. A lot of times you don't even know the questions you need to ask.
Well, if you want to protect your estate, you have to be very proactive about it and make sure it's all, you have a real estate plan in place and a trust that's set up so those assets don't have to go through probate. And then you don't have to deal with all that, so that's the big part of it. So you got to be proactive, and most people don't want to deal with talking about,
right. They don't want to talk about what happens.
But it can slow things up so much. I know I've seen a probate case that took a year. It was almost done. And then a hurricane blew out the judge's office and they had to start all over again.
Wow.
Well, you have to pay those taxes on all that real estate. If you have estate taxes, within that same year, and therefore, if it's all property, you got to sell it, and it'll be a fire sale, just to pay the taxes. So it's very important to make sure you have a plan to pay that.
And I'm actually dealing with 3 probate/estate cases right now, and I'm going up today to go to look at a house in Port St. Lucie that has the same situation. So it'll be 4, and all 4 attorneys are dealing with it differently, but 3 of the 4 did not have an estate. So we have to go through the probate process, which means that the attorneys have to notify all these creditors and let them know,
Yep.
hey, if you have any claims, you got to let us know within
That's
this
exactly
time
right.
period and
Yeah.
all this. So while all that's happening, sometimes you can sell the property, sometimes you can't. It depends. Each case like a snowflake.
Yep.
So, but anyway, we got the permission. I don't think the attorney knew that I was going to get 3 offers in 36 hours. I think they're like, yeah, put it on the market and see what happens. They don't know me. And the reason why we were able to do that, and let's slide into that right now for the shout out, is another shout out to AJ, because I needed an appraisal for that property. And you got me to a great guy, Darius. So thank you so much.
Well, I know enough to know. Listen, I'm good till I get to Boca. And as soon as I cross that line to the south, I'm lost. I could go all the way up to Fort Pierce, but I do not know down there.
You know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing. I call Dade a landmass to get me to the Keys.
Exactly. It's a really good way to get to the Keys.
Actually brings up a good question though, is like how important is local knowledge for your appraiser?
Well, in this instance, I did call Darius because I've worked with him in the past. I actually trained him years ago. He's a great appraiser, but he's got a lot of other skill set also. So I called him and asked him, I said, look at this property, talk to me about this neighborhood. And he knew right away, knew everything about it. Oh, this is a cookie cutter kind of,
Yes,
he goes, it is. So, and he's down there all the time. And that's the big thing too. It's, for me, part of my cost is that drive. So if I don't have the geographic competence, then I've either got to bring somebody in or refer it out to somebody that's, more appropriate for the job.
And I almost said a journalist. I
You
said as a
kind of
journalist,
said it,
I did it, right? Yeah.
As a career that's not yours
Anymore.
Right. As a former career, as a realtor, pricing the house is very important. And then when you're doing a probate, usually the family has no idea what the house is worth. Sometimes they have very high expectation of what it's worth. Like if somebody's living in
Sometimes.
yeah, right. Like if somebody's living in another state and they're like, wow, I'm selling a house in Florida. It must be super duper, everything's super duper expensive, right? And then,
Zillow said it's worth.
Oh yeah.
And then a lot of times you have different parties in the estate. Like it isn't just one person. Like I had one last year where there were 5 people involved in the proceeds, if you will. Yeah. And 3 of them got along and 2 didn't. So every decision that had to be made had to go through the gauntlet of 5 people, and things change and change and change.
Fun.
Yeah. So it can get really crazy. So you really need to have a real estate expert that can guide you through that and also kind of explain things to the right way. I remember I did a probate case last year where I think there were 4 parties involved in 3 different states. And everybody had told me that there was this one party that was going to be a real problem right through the whole process. They were predicting that. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to project because, that's all family dynamics and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get everybody on the phone and I'm going to go over a very detailed plan of how we're going to sell the house and why I think it's worth what it's worth and show them why, not just tell them. And it was one of the smoothest transactions I did last year, right? Total agreement with everything. We even had to do a price adjustment on the property to get it sold. I think we had to give concessions or something. Got it all through because I was able to explain it to everybody and it made sense.
Was it healthy money? Was it easy to set, a big number you could divide by 4 and still be big for everybody?
Actually, no, it wasn't like this big windfall deal because there was a mortgage involved. Yeah. There was a mortgage involved on it and everything. Yeah. So that had to be paid off. But, it worked out great. And I think by giving more information, the other thing the real estate agent has to do, usually the family doesn't know what to ask to the probate attorney when it comes to the real estate stuff. And the agent has to be very aggressive and very proactive in asking a lot of stuff to the family. And one of my questions is, hey, can I talk to your attorney directly? Right? Can I talk to your probate attorney directly? I don't need to be peppering them all the time, but I want to have a 15-minute conversation to understand what are the guardrails that we got to follow, and make sure that I get all the information, and then ask them questions. Like if that other attorney was able to talk to me before I put the house on the market, I would have said, well, what happens if the house sells in 3 days?
Well,
Right.
This is why it's so important to have an experienced realtor, but or even more important to have an experienced team that you work with, so that you can proactively handle this from happening at all. But if it does happen, then you can still handle it.
And in order to do this, the family, just in like a couple of these cases, I'm kind of mushing them together because I'm dealing with 3 right now. But services I had to give, 2 of the 3 estate or probate cases live out of state. They don't live here. The houses are vacant. We have a vacant house down here.
And there's different tax issues in each state based on the properties and the estate taxes.
And the way they do stuff up there is different than the way
community
down here.
property.
So they talk up there about the way things work in their state, and then they go, "Why isn't that like down here?" I'm like, "We're Florida, right?" And so what happened? But what happens is the services I have to give these people are not just, "Hey, let me go sell your house."
Right.
I did useful life reports for properties because one of the roofs was 2006, so we had to do a useful life. I had to got junk people in to clear out the property. I had to get cleaning services to come in. We had to do appraisal on one of the properties. I'm sure the other 2 are coming. But you have to have a realtor that has all of that stuff and be able to talk to it. Later, we're going to be doing appraisal or BPO, broker price opinion, of what the property was worth when the person died. People ask me for that.
Well, honestly, Jim, one of the reasons I keep coming back in, and one of the things that I think made that decision easier for that family that was your client, is that everybody here, you and every guest I've ever seen come in here, Mike and Ross, you're trying to help people make an informed decision. And that's really what 90% of the people that call me are looking for, is they're not dumb. They're ignorant of that situation. They need some help to give them the right tools so that they can figure out what the best thing is for them.
Exactly. That's why I go to Jarrett for my accounting, right? I don't know anything about accounting. When he talks to me, it sounds like a foreign language.
I haven't understood half of what he says.
not on the show. I'm talking about my personal tax.
When I hear all this estate stuff, what I'm thinking is, there's a huge opportunity because these people are selling these properties most of the time because they want a passive investment. They don't want to deal with managing a property in Florida or another one in Georgia when they live in California or wherever it is. So now they got the tax issues, but a lot of people don't know that they can roll those capital gains back into other investments to reinvest it into something passive where they don't have to pay the capital gains tax, and they can still turn it into an income producing asset. So there's opportunities, tax plays for these people as well.
Can I ask you a question? Because I do a lot of appraisals for estates, a lot of date of death, retrospective appraisals for this type of thing. And I want to understand, when do they not need an appraisal? If somebody inherits a house and 6 months later they sell it, do they need an appraisal from 6 months ago, or can they just pretty much use that value of the sale and not have to pay capital gains?
They inherit it through their parents pass.
Yes.
Then they get what they call a step up in basis. So they would need some type of appraisal, because if the parents they paid $100,000 for it and it's worth $400,000. That $300,000 is what they call a step up in basis. So the kids' new basis in the house, their cost would be $400,000.
So their liability's high right off the bat based on what their parents paid for the house. I never realized that.
Well, it's actually a helpful thing because it's not a liability. What's happening is that's what's used if the kids ever sell it to determine their gain. So if the kids
higher the value, the better.
Yeah. So if the kid sells it for $500, they would only have $100,000 gain because their basis is $400 now.
Okay, so it's the opposite of what I was saying.
Yeah, instead of it being $100 where the parents paid, they'd have a $400,000.
Gotcha.
So that's a step up in basis, and it's very important because if the parents gifted it to the kid, then they get the parents' basis.
Oh, interesting.
Major problem, and
what if-
parents do that all the time.
What if it was in like a trust? Does that avoid some of that tax burden for the inheritors?
If a lot of times they'll buy the property and then move it to the trust, so there's not like appreciation in it because it's still a gift. If they gift it to the trust, it would go at basis.
Do you want to go out for like drinks or dinner later? Because I have about 400 of these
I
questions.
know, right?
Yeah,
I just had one recently where the family, after I sold the house, that was last year, and they asked me to do a broker's price opinion of what the property was worth. So I didn't do a formal broker price opinion. I basically, and they wanted it for the accountant. So I gave them comps basically, and I gave them a little write-up of why I thought the property was worth what it was at the time when the person passed, which was only 6 months earlier. So it wasn't like there was this big long gap. It's like, what was the house worth 6 months ago? You know what? That's a little harder sometimes.
It's interesting that you say that because there's the date of death, fair market value, and then you can use a 6-month alternate valuation basis, which is the fair market value 6 months after the date of death. So if the market's appreciating, you're going to want to use the 6 month. If it's depreciating, you're going to want the.
I'm sorry, I have to ask because this is really important for my clients. So if I'm in a period of rapid appreciation like it was 3 years ago, and somebody's date of death was January 1st, and they call me in November, it's 11 months later, I could say, well, you could do the effective date on the date of death January 1st, but it might be better for you to do it as of June 1st.
That's correct. You can definitely, when you file on a state tax return, which is what reports the fair market values, you can use the date of death or the 6 month alternate value.
We're laughing because AJ's taking notes right now, like it's a class, like it's a seminar or something. That's awesome.
I hear you're a South Florida fisherman. We can go out and do some snook fishing.
Oh,
talk
that
about
sounds good.
basis and all this stuff whenever you want.
Yeah, 2 Florida boys. That's right, 2 Florida boys.
Absolutely.
That's true.
And AJ, you said the word effective date. I always thought the effective date of the appraisal is the day that you're going out to the property.
That's because you're always dealing with loans.
But if you're doing the retrospective, you
the effective date is so I went
as of this date.
Yeah,
okay.
I went out there on June 1st, but this appraisal has an effective date of February 2nd.
Okay.
And yeah,
that's pretty wild. When I did my BPO, my broker's price opinion, I wasn't sure if it was going to be acceptable. I thought maybe they had to do an appraisal or a more formal BPO. And they were okay with it. They said it was fine. So I was like,
it
cool.
really only matters if you get audited, and then right, because you're basically trying to give the tax preparer some information, and then they're like, okay, well, that's good. That's something, right?
Yeah,
to have some sort of paper trail.
I need like an email or something from somebody.
Right.
Like, I mean, an appraisal that says,
Jarrett, look, Zillow says it's worth
if we want a low value, we go to the property appraiser.
Right. Yeah.
You want a high value, we go to Zillow.
That makes sense.
Hey, we're going to take a break right now. On the flip side, we're going to talk a little bit about interest rates with Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm. Got a little bit of a reprieve this week over what we've had. But
remember last week,
don't spoil.
We made a prediction. Last Saturday.
Yeah, last
Sorry,
Saturday.
I'm like, what day are we on?
Yeah,
the show's every Saturday, right?
Every Saturday, 9 to
Last
11.
Saturday, we said, what's this Thursday report going to say?
Exactly.
Right?
So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to go into a bunch of stuff about accounting, and we're going to talk a little bit about Renegades sports because we own the show, so we get to talk about it a little bit. And I just want to do a couple of the shout outs. Nate, thanks for coming out, and Joyce, Johnny's mom, happy birthday, happy Mother's Day. Sorry about birthday. Happy Mother's Day, Betty, and my mom and Francis. And we'll talk to you guys on the flip side.
What's a Real Radio podcast? It's Real Radio on demand. Find your favorite show at realradio921.com. Here's the latest with weather on Real Radio.
From the Gordon Partners Weather Center. Have you or a loved one been injured through no fault of your own? Call 561-333-3333 or go to fortheinjured.com.
I'm CBS 12 meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Although this morning was very muggy, we are currently experiencing a weak front moving through the area, not bringing a lot in terms of rainfall, but it will bring down those humidity levels back into seasonable ranges. Now, in terms of temperatures, we'll see them drop slightly tomorrow. Until then, mid and upper 90s.
This report is sponsored by Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. You wouldn't drive a car under the influence, so why would you operate a boat? The FWC wants to remind you that operating a boat while impaired is just as deadly as driving a car and carries the same penalties. Be as safe at sea as you are on land. Visit myfwc.com for more info.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
This is Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7. Real talk for the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Welcome back to Florida Talk Real Estate. We're here with Jim DePola, Jared Perry, and Mike Rauch, and myself, AJ Holman. You want to work with people that are looking out for your best interests? We've got some people here today that you could call in and get some good advice. Take advantage. Call in now with any questions at 877-927-6969.
Hey, oh, I'm sorry. Who was saying? Did somebody just say something?
Yeah, I think it's AJ. It's 6969.
Oh,
say it like
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah.
6969.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I'll
There
try
you
that
go.
next time.
I used to be able to try. I used to try to mimic what Dr. Rich used to say. With that deep baritone voice he used to have, and he would say 877-927-6969.
That might be where I got it from. I did
Did he
listen
say
to
it like
those guys
I
a lot.
love that guy. That guy was
Yeah.
awesome, right?
So maybe I'm wrong then. Maybe it's not 69. It's just 69.
Well, you know about the whole 877 thing with the 6969, right, Jimmy?
I don't know anything about it. Don't dial 800.
Don't dial 800-927-69. Don't do it. Don't do it. Unless you're a rocket scientist. Remember the rocket scientist?
I think it's 900, right? The 800 numbers were safe. It's the 900 numbers that you.
I don't. You would. I guess you know.
We'll bow to your superior knowledge on the subject.
Yeah, we're going
Wait
to
a second.
We're deferring.
None of us are too young in this room to remember 900 numbers, right?
One time we
those existed.
One time we
I don't
were
know what you're talking about.
we were doing a call-in show. And we were trying to have people for the community calls in, and I had a rocket scientist from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory up in Rockledge to give us a call.
Yeah.
And you didn't call the whole show, and I'm like, I really wanted that guy on the show because he created this app that followed one of the Voyager things around the whole universe or whatever. You could follow it, right? So I wanted him on the show, and he didn't call. And then I got this email when I was done. It was a really nasty email from saying, "Why would you prank me? I don't even understand the benefit of what you were trying to do. I don't get it." He was really mad. And then I called him back and I said, "Hi." And he started yelling at me again. And I said, "Let me ask you a question. Can you read back the phone number that you dialed?"
Wow.
And he dialed the wrong number, and he got the male porn site.
Nice.
So he called a male porn site instead of us, thought we
him.
were messing with them. And then I said, "Yeah, I understand. You're a rocket scientist."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Did you say, well, it's not brain surgery?
Not
rocket. Remember that skit? You remember that skit? There's a skit.
SNL.
Oh, jeez.
In living color.
Oh, it might have been.
No, you know what? I forget what it come from. It might have been like a
Mad
Monty
TV or
Python
something?
Laurel and
era.
Hardy.
Oh, older.
But it's this guy going around a party, and he's a brain surgeon, and in every conversation he would drop, "Oh, but it's not brain surgery." People are talking about what they do for a living or whatever, and then a new guy walks in, and the girl's like, "Oh, hey guys, this is Jim. Yeah, he works for NASA. He's a rocket engineer, rocket scientist, or whatever." And then the brain surgeon's talking, and the rocket guy,
Not rocket.
Yeah, but that's not rocket science,
Right.
It's not brain surgery. Anyway,
one of the guys, one of the people, Eric from, let's see, was on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. Just asked us. He said, "Hey, I just caught your show, but what are people doing if they can't get insurance out there and they're defaulting?" He's wondering if people defaulting on their loans. So, I was just talking to somebody this week. Well, I was just talking exactly. I was just talking to somebody this week that decided because they own the house outright, they don't want to pay for insurance anymore, and they were figuring out their house is a little over $1 million. Let's just say, I don't want to give real numbers. It's a Palm Beach County house. It's a newer home. It's about 10 years old, so it has all the upgrades that you would expect for protection.
It's almost ancient.
We
as
had
far
to
as
do the same
insurance
thing
goes.
on the Panhandle with the houses up there.
Oh, I
The
didn't even
insurance
think about
got
it.
is
What
so,
did they get up there?
It's there's only one insurance company that writes it.
Mhm.
I can't remember who it is.
In the
but
Panhandle?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
crazy
Citizens?
expensive. Yeah, it's crazy expensive, and we're debating putting the money away every year.
Well,
and
that's
saving
what
it.
this person decided because it was $10,000 a year just for the policy,
Yeah.
right? Then it's a 30. I think he mentioned it was a $30,000 deductible for windstorm,
Yeah,
and
that's
he
what- it's
started adding
crazy.
everything up, and he's like, you know what?
it's like after 3 years or something.
Yeah,
and
and
the
his is
deductible.
like, I'm double strapped. I've got, everything's covered to the highest Miami-Dade County code,
And there's no mortgage.
and no mortgage. So they decided we're just going to go bare.
I think there's a lot of homeowners making that decision.
I got a
We're kind of
friend
rolling the dice.
We're close.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 But I think to answer,
I just
Eric's
want to say
question.
one. I just want to say one thing about going bare though, real quick, is the only thing that's bothered me about that. We haven't had a big one in a long, long time on the East Coast, and
It's not that type of bear. You
this,
don't have to-
but this is but this is a La Nina. This is a La Nina year supposedly, and that's supposed to mean heightened activity.
I'm stressing this year. I'm worried about it.
Yeah, I know. So the thing is like this might not be the year to decide to go bare. This might not be the best year to like wing
because
it
you're
because of
saying
La Nina.
El Nino.
No, El Nino is
La
less
Nina.
activity. La Nina is more activity.
More activity than
And
El Nino?
Yeah,
It's
La
the
Nina.
opposite.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Boys
so-
good, girls bad.
Yeah,
Wow.
girls
right?
bad.
This is
Yeah.
going to be crazy.
So the water gets heated up a little more on the East Coast and
Is
some
it
other
warmer
stuff.
water for the hurricanes? Yep.
So
I mean,
what-
a tornado just hit Tallahassee.
really?
Yeah, yesterday morning.
I didn't see that.
Yep.
Wow.
Isabel's
that's good.
reporting.
Is she okay? I was going to say.
Yeah,
okay?
she was fine. She lost power. I think there was some section of town that got
Wow.
hit hard.
Wow.
I was
Yeah.
just looking last weekend, and there's a lot of little condominiums in downtown Lake Worth that have let their insurance go. One of them
Oh.
didn't even have fire. You can't get loans for those units.
The
Wow.
condo insurance is one of those things, and that goes in line with like Eric's question, which is like the insurance is pricing us out of our home.
Mhm.
And just to answer his question, if that's happening, right? So your insurance is going up. Number one, you have to basically shop your insurance. So you should be calling Ross and say, hey, listen, can we do anything to get any savings on our insurance? Our payment is now to the point where we can't afford it, right? So we need to do something. So you can't really lower your principal interest at this point. You can't lower your property taxes. Your insurance is still like the one kind of variable component. And so you have to shop it. But if it's just too expensive and you are going to end up defaulting, number one, contact your loan servicer, make sure that you tell them you're having trouble, you're having some sort of hardship, you can't make it, whatever it is. They may be able to give you some time. They may be able to give you a deferral. But at the end of the day, the worst thing to do is to just default, let it go late. It's going to hit your credit. You're going to have, if you do that 3 months in a row, guess what? Your lender's going to foreclose on you. So you don't let that happen. You probably have positive equity. You have your worst case scenario, you can sell your home.
Yeah.
Don't stick your head in the hole and think it's going to go away. You
Yeah.
got to pick up the phone and communicate with your lender. Even when we were in that foreclosure crisis and everything, our words were on this show, always communicate with your lender. It's better to let them know what's going on, and then you have open communication. Sometimes they have resources you don't even know about.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that in the insurance it will, but they might be able to give you advice.
And it's very scary. Like that last thing I said, worst case scenario, you have to sell your home. And people don't want to face that decision, right? Like that could be like, oh my God, I can't sell my home. Where am I going to go and everything? And so that's probably the scariest part.
It's scary.
Is like that could be a potential outcome of your financial hardship. But
if you're going to be there in 4 to 5 months with no money to take with you,
that's the thing. If it's going to happen, if it's inevitable, you need to protect your equity.
Well,
right?
it happened. It
yeah.
happened to me. I mean, and they kept telling me I didn't need a new roof, but my insurance was going to go up if I didn't get a new roof.
Yep, the roofers kept telling Jarrett didn't need the new roof, but the insurance company's saying too bad.
Yeah, well, the first 1 year they said I needed a letter. I got the letter. I was fine. The next year, the insurance skyrocketed. It was over $20,000 a month.
Yeah,
I mean,
a year.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
not a month. Yeah.
not a month.
And you can also like some people
that
say,
seems excessive.
That'd be an expensive.
and you can't if you have a loan, you can't let your insurance lapse either. Well, it's kind of hard for that to happen, but if you end up not having insurance for whatever reason, your lender is going to put what's called force placed insurance,
Which is more, right?
which will cost more, and it doesn't protect you.
It usually costs 2 times to 3 times more.
and it only protects the bank.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's only, and the person that gets the proceeds is the bank, not you. So don't do that, because then what happens is those are all bills they're passing on to you. And that's where you get your equity stripped out of, like
Right.
Mike's talking
Because
about.
everything starts escalating. They start adding tacking fees. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
gets
Once
ugly
it
fast.
hits the lawyers too. I mean, it's just, so the best thing is to do it. Like if you're there, you got to call your lender and just say, hey, listen, we're having trouble. What are our options? That's step one.
We had an agent, Kleber. I think he talked to you, or Kleber. He talked to you yesterday from Keller Williams. He's a brand new agent from New York, and he moved down here. He's in the Wellington office right now. And he was calling. I told him, look, if you need a good mortgage guy, because he's brand new down here, you got to go to Mike. And Kleber deals with a lot of Latinos. So I'm like, Mike's your guy, right?
See.
Right. So, but the other
Yeah,
thing
obviously.
is that he was amazed about homeowners insurance.
Oh yeah.
Right. He was like, what's going on with home insurance? The other thing he was surprised about was taxes, property taxes. He called me on one of my properties and said, why is your property tax bill on your property in the same neighborhood like 3 times higher than this other house for sale? And I'm like, I gave him the whole education about how property taxes work in Florida. And he was like, wow, I'm so glad I learned this, because he didn't know any of it yet.
Yeah.
It's those informed decisions again.
Yep. And yep, exactly. And with ours, with our situation, it actually is not a bad thing that ours has no production on homestead, and it hasn't since the family bought it. So whatever the tax bill is now is the real
Is what
tax
it's gonna
bill.
be, yeah.
So you're not going to get that sticker shock too much when you go to buy the house, as opposed to, and Kleber was asking if people, if mortgage, he goes, this sounds like a mortgage broker thing that mortgage brokers should talk to their buyers about. But what people don't get is, if you, let's say you have one property tax at $2,500 a year, another one at $800 a year, same neighborhood, same unit, same everything, basically, right?
Yeah.
The $2,500 a year had no homesteading. The $800 a year was homesteaded for 10 years, right? Mike, when you do that loan, you have to put in what you estimate the taxes to be for the mortgage payment, correct?
No.
What do you mean?
No.
You don't estimate. You use the taxes for the year that
The
last year that was existing, right?
Exactly.
So if it's only 800,
right,
you're only going to count as $800 a year for the tax bill.
That's
for qualifying for the loan.
Right.
But I'm assuming that you tell them, right?
I definitely
Mike
talk to people
does.
all the time,
Yeah.
especially when I see very low taxes. I make
But-
a point
but-
to say, hey guys,
But wait, before you
Yeah.
say that part, I want to talk about what happens next if you don't talk about it. So
Oh,
you don't talk
sure.
about it. You have $800 year taxes. You budgeted that. Now, let's say the real tax bill is $2,500 a year. Okay. That's the real tax bill. What happens is, when you buy the house, the county gets a chance, even if it's homesteaded, to reset the tax bill based on today's assessed value, and take away all the protections from the past. So the tax bill will jump up, let's say in this case, to $2,500 a year.
Yep.
Right. But you budgeted $800 a year to get the loan.
Yeah.
And they've been paying escrow payments on that.
based on the 800.
So when do they find out that they haven't been collecting enough for the real tax bill?
They get their
December.
annual-
December.
December.
So it's kind of can be a shock.
I get calls every December.
Mike shuts his phone off
Yeah,
in
no,
December.
every
That's why I
December.
can't
But
get
they
you
don't
in
always
December.
adjust it, Mike. I like sometimes I see the statements just go like negative. It says escrow negative. There's
Right.
not-
The escrows, a
and
lot of
there's
times the
no
escrows will go negative.
adjustment.
No,
for
they
the
adjusted.
payment.
They adjusted. The so
I'm gonna email you.
they'll do at some point. They will adjust your escrows to basically. I don't know how deep we want to get into this, but I can give you the
I'm
overview.
sorry.
So yeah, every December I get calls. Whether I had that conversation initially, I'll have that conversation with pretty much every buyer where I talk about property taxes, and I could say, hey, listen, you can take advantage. Like when you're shopping, and let's say you're pushing your limit on your qualifying payment, right? So your max qualifying payment, let's say it's $3,000 a month. Well, home A is neighbor with home B. You might be able to buy home A at 400,000, and you can't buy home B at 400,000. And the reason is because the property taxes on one is at non-homesteaded number, and the other one's at the lower value. So you actually you can get your foot in the door for the same price home, qualifying for one and not being able to qualify for the other because of the property tax. So that's a perfect example where I say, listen, you're able to get in now, you take advantage of that. You found a good home with very low taxes, but come, depending on the year, November of whatever year, your taxes are going to go up. You need to be prepared for your payment to go up, and potentially it goes up twofold. So the escrow account is essentially a savings account. So if I told you, Jim, hey, next November, you're going to have a $1,200 bill due. I'm going to use 1,200 because it's easy math, right? So that means I want you to save $100 a month into a savings account. That's what the escrow account is. I'm forcing you to save installments so that come next November, we got $1,200 in the kitty ready to stroke that check, right? If you were managing on your own, I would say save $100. So next you got $1,200 in an account. Same thing. So when the bill comes out and it's $2,400, well, we haven't saved enough. Number one, right? So I need to collect $1,200 because we're short $1,200.
Double whammy.
Right? And then additionally, for the next November, we need to increase your $100 savings to $200.
Right.
Right. So a lot of people don't have the shortfall. So they'll spread that out over the next 12 months. So then all of a sudden, instead of only increasing $100 a month, you've increased an additional $200 on top of the original 100. So your payment's going up
to
$200, right? 3 instead of the 1. So you kind of get double hit,
right?
Because it's an advanced savings,
right? So and then sometimes people can't handle that. That's what happens sometimes. that's why it's really important for the realtor and also the loan officer or mortgage company to talk to their buyers about this, especially out-of-state buyers who don't understand how this works.
I got to say something on that. I have had so many clients this year, especially after talking to them about new purchases and just starting to ask them, did they file their homestead exemption?
Sure.
And finding out that the realtors are not educating them on, especially the athletes, on filing though. They don't even know what I'm talking about. A lot of these clients, when I say, did you file your home? What does that do? And I'm like,
wow.
Well, it helps, set your tax base lower and lock it in, but also it protects you for liability. I mean, you got to, so I don't know why, but I feel like there's a lot of the realtors they don't get into these conversations.
There's too many that don't.
We actually have like what we call a drip campaign, and it's set up when you're a customer and you close with us. We set out a series of 2 or 3 emails. I'm not sure.
I remember
in November, December, saying, "Hey, don't forget to homestead this year."
Yeah,
and we even give the link to the county that you bought the house in, so that you know where to go to get the homestead.
And it's not hard. It's easy. It's so
you
disappointing.
Could do it online. You could just do it online.
I hate it when a friend of mine's like, "Oh, I didn't know. I used my brother as my realtor."
That's when it happens.
And it's awful. It's just a complete waste of money, and it's forever because you miss that lock in, that 3% maximum increase every year, also with the homestead. So. It's going to impact you every year you own a home in Florida.
It's for
not
sure.
only that,
and you have to file it to get the liability protection. I think as your for the exemption, right? Isn't that what protects you? Your homestead exemption from creditors.
Yeah. Also, sure.
Yeah. If you don't file it, you don't have.
You know what? I don't know if filing the homestead exemption is the only. I think if it's your primary home that you live in, it's your homesteaded property, regardless of whether you file that or not.
Oh, okay.
So there's federal homestead
protections and bankruptcy and things like that.
And then there's state homestead protections.
Property tax.
And the state homestead gives stronger protections than the federal law for your house is your castle. I forget that law, but it's like your house is castle law. That's why so many billionaires come down here to protect themselves.
Yeah.
But the other thing, though, is it saves on taxes every year, as AJ said. So by homesteading, no matter how much the property values increase,
you lock it in.
You can't go up more than 3% a year. But the good news is, if it goes down, you can go down as low as it goes down. So
it was so crazy during the implosion.
Yeah.
Also, and Timothy's a perfect example of this. It will give you tax savings on the next home you buy, and the home after that, because you get this portability. You start to get this gap between the market value and your assessed value because of the cap on how much it can increase year over year. And that is portable. That's what portability is. That gap is portable to your next home and to the home after that. So it's super, super important.
Yeah, that takes a big chunk of that away. And because that can be a big gap. You can go from, I would have gone up 7 times in my property taxes had we not had that portability.
You saved 7 times. It would have went up 7.
About that 6 times. Yeah. Because I think those taxes would have been over 7,000.
Well, and on top of it, you were homesteaded for a long time. How long did you live in your first home?
20 years, 20 plus years,
awesome.
Actually 23 years.
So you had a big portability number that is transferable to the new home.
Huge.
If you didn't do that, I mean, the whole idea is you just want your property taxes to be as low as possible. And Florida gives you some tools to do that and some advantages for doing it. And if you're not doing it, it is kind of like your agent should educate you. Your lender should educate you. Jim notifies you, reminds you to do it. I make calls in January and I say, hey, listen, have you done this? Especially I'll go look at the property tax appraiser on closed deals and say, hey, they actually haven't homesteaded. Let me make this call. So
it's really important. Want to switch over, Mike, to interest rates, since we got a little good news, which we predicted last week, as you said, because the way the reports came out. We use the Freddie Mac weekly report to judge what's happening in the mortgage interest rate arena.
Yes.
It is not the interest rate people get. So when we talk about these numbers, it's not saying, hey, you're going to get this if you apply for a mortgage. All that's dependent on your credit score and the down payment and the type of loan and everything.
Above, below this number, but this is our barometer for movement.
Exactly. This shows what's happening in the market. Right now, we're at 711, if I'm not mistaken. We went down 0.13. I'm not on the computer, Mike, so I apologize. I'm doing this off of memory.
7.09.
Oh, okay, even better. Okay,
yeah,
0.02 better than I thought. We went down 0.13.
That's right.
It's if I'm not mistaken, so that's really good. We've been going up like 3 or 4 weeks in a row, if I'm not mistaken, and this is our first like little reprieve, and that's good. We really getting into the sevens was a little shocking to me. I'm not like saying it was impossible or anything, but I thought we were going to be staying in the 6.5 to 7, 6.35 to 7.
Yep.
And once we passed that 7 mark, and we got into what, the 7.2s, Mike, or was it 7.17?
Yeah, 7.22 was kind of the most recent high, which is,
and that was like 7.25. It's like, wow, we're a little higher than I thought we were going to be.
That was actually last week.
Yeah, it's right when I bought my new
7.22.
car.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't it
right?
always work out that way?
Yeah. But we're going to see what's going to happen. It's good that we're getting a little reprieve now. I want to talk about something that not everybody's talking about. The national pundits now, some of them, not everybody by any means, are now starting to talk about no hikes, no decreases in the Fed Reserve this year at all, and that we might actually have 1 or 2 hikes in the Fed Reserve rate. People are starting to talk about that right now because we can't tamp down inflation.
Everybody keeps spending.
Yeah.
I mean, until they stop, until it lets up, they're going to keep doing this.
Everybody says the economy's bad, but we can't get everybody to
They
stop
gave away
spending money.
too much money with the programs from COVID. I mean, they dumped crazy amounts of loans that people didn't need into them.
Jarrett gave us, I brought this up a couple weeks ago. Jarrett, you gave me really good insight, like in January, where you said that because you meet with so many small business owners, right?
Yep.
And a lot of them got COVID money and EILDL money and stuff like that. And you were telling me for the last couple of years that a lot of the business owners, including me to a certain extent, to be honest, I'm being real, a lot of the business owners didn't realize how much that money was really keeping them afloat.
Yeah, the cash flow part.
The cash flow part. So they felt like they were
doing
well. They
fine.
had money in their account. There kept being every year there was like 2 programs where they were getting hit with extra money. They could it was either forgivable or there was a loan they could get, and everybody was taking all of it.
And it almost came to the point that it was around for so long, a few years, that people didn't know what it was like not having it. So it was just like I don't want to say cost of doing business, but it was like an income that was almost like expected, but it wasn't really acknowledged.
And the EIDL, the last one, which was a big loan, a lot of people just assumed that it was going to be forgiven
at some point.
Right. And the payments have started on it, so it's not getting forgiven. There's nothing saying it's ever getting forgiven. So,
right.
The combination of all that, I think I saw it a little while ago. I was thinking it was going to cause some problems because people didn't have the money they thought they had, and they thought their businesses were doing well. They were hiring, but the money wasn't coming in like they thought it was.
We one of the signs that I read about last week that we didn't get to talk about much was there was a consumer report where it showed that the consumers for the first time looked like they were slowing down spending a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was a little aha moment to me because they were talking, the article wasn't about that. The article was talking about how the retailers in certain segments were responding by lowering prices because of the weak demand from consumers for their product. And I was like, wow, so that's how it would work if the soft landing happens, that's how it'll work. Because think about this, when COVID happened, and let's say that you were paying $3 for a gallon of milk before COVID and $4 for a gallon of milk after COVID, right? Now, let's say the supply chain issues are done. Do you think that the people are buying the milk for $4? Do you think they're going to go down to $3 because they can?
That's a lot.
No,
of it
they're
too.
going to keep the money, right?
Yeah.
So the only way that they're going to drop the prices is when the consumer demand goes away and they have to start dropping the prices to move the product again. That's what we're waiting for. That's the big lynch. And if we can make that happen, we'll have the soft landing. But if we can't make that happen, it'll be a crash because we could overshoot. And by the time they try to correct anything, it'll be too late. That's what they're afraid of.
I think that's what's happening. I think people are already in a position where they can't buy that stuff. and they don't have the cash they thought they have.
But then why? And I understand where you're coming from that, but then why are we seeing the consumer demand so strong, except for this one last report? Because one report doesn't make a trend, might be the beginning of a trend.
I think
why do people say, why do we get this strong consumer demand all these years, even though everybody's saying that?
I mean, I'm thinking it's going to get stronger each time it comes out.
So you think it's
forward.
the beginning of the trend?
I do. But.
Yeah, and it could be. I really don't know. It's kind of interesting.
I think people will start to hit the limits of their ability to borrow and their savings.
Yeah.
And even like dipping into retirement savings.
They've already been
unnecessarily, things like that. So
I've seen a lot of that too as well. People have dipped into their 401ks and their IRAs, business owners, just to cover because they've been a little tight. Just expecting a little better cash flow this last year.
So the point I'm trying to make about all this, guys, is that there's a lot of people out there that I don't know why people get so fixed on interest rates, but like it's like the holy grail or something. But if people are making their decisions on what they want the interest rates to be projected in the future, you might be waiting a very long time or be way off.
I mean, I think it's in the vein of what AJ was talking about, which is like people, and our whole MO here is to give people information so that they can make good decisions, right? Informed decisions. And so people talk about interest rates because it's easy to track. Like you can, we've told people how to look at it every week, right? How to keep track. And so people are like thinking it's important in their decision making. And we talk about it because it's like what's happening in the market.
Yeah.
But is it super critical to your decision making? And I think we've established it's not particularly important. What's important is like, what's the payment, right? Can you find a payment that works in the neighborhood that you want to buy in? So a house that checks your boxes, a payment that checks your boxes, and then you worry about the rate. If it gets better, you can, I hate to like preface it like, yeah, of course you can refinance. You can't. There's no guarantee you're going to be able to refinance, but the likelihood of being able to refinance at some point in the future is high. But so when you're in,
but if you're waiting if the reason you didn't buy was because you're waiting for a rate adjustment, then you might as well buy and then refinance.
If somebody's plan this year was, I'm waiting for the interest rates to come down. Number one, it hasn't happened yet. Number two, housing prices have not moved much in your direction either. If anything, they went the other direction. There's no guarantee the Fed's going to lower rates this year. There's no guarantee that they don't increase rates. I mean, it's just like you just can't predict it. Right. And we talk about it all the time. We're in it and we can't predict. I can't tell you what's going to happen next month as far as rates go, or next 3 months from now, whether housing prices are going to be higher or lower. You would think normally we're in the summer, housing, it's going to pick up, right? Like housing sales are going to pick up just like they do every year here in South Florida.
But something I see people do a lot too is they look at, and understandably, they look at the average price, the median price, what's happening. But it's really about being able to pick off a good deal too sometimes. And in some markets, like when values were screaming up in 2021, you're not going to be able to find somebody who's desperate, maybe a good below market sale. But right now, interest rates are high. But if you can get that home for less because right now, the only people that are moving out of state, they have to sell the home because for the most part, because people don't want the new interest rate. Why would I sell and get into a place at twice the interest rate?
We just picked up a home for one of our buyers in Port St. Lucie, where we had the second lowest sale in the neighborhood in like 15 months.
Right. So if you're in that market, even if it's kind of flat, that's still good enough for you to maybe, if you're good about it and you can target it and kind of elephant gun approach instead of shotgun approaching, and you're competing with 10 other buyers, well, great, your interest rate's low, but you're up against 10 other buyers now.
Yeah, and it's funny, like that neighborhood is a little slow in Port St. Lucie. That probate and Plantation I told you about, that one, we had like 25 showings in, I think we had 15 or 20 showings from Friday through Sunday, and 4 offers on the table Monday, right? And then the other neighborhood, it was crickets chirping, price drop.
Oh, but the one in Plantation is you're undervalued for the neighborhood. because of the age of
It,
the
Because
home.
of the
looks like
dated-
the 70s.
because of the
Yeah.
dated nature of the interior. I
Yeah.
did have a little walk through memory lane when I saw it. That was
Did, yeah. Oh, you should see the tile in there. It's so 70s, the tile. But we're going to take a little break right now. On the flip side, we're going to talk to Jarrett Perry from the Perry CPA Group and Renegades Sports and Entertainment. We're going to talk about capital gains so people understand when you sell your house, do you have to pay any money? That's my number one question all the time. Well, how much am I going to have to pay the IRS when I sell my house? So we're going to talk about that with Jarrett, get some really good advice about understanding that. And we're also going to do a couple, if we can, let's squeeze in a couple success stories about Renegade Sports and Entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
Sounds good.
The bad news, the brain isn't all that great at hearing stuff and remembering it. The good news, you can watch us too. Like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Real Radio 92.1.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
From the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys Studios.
Have you been in an accident? Call Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys at 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Real Radio 92.1 is WZZR West Palm Beach, an iHeartRadio station.
Listen on your free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Somehow.
So who's going to do it? It's me. I'm joking. It's Jimmy D. Johnny's not here. Can you tell? It's Jimmy D. This is Florida Talk Real Estate, your number one information provider about all things real estate in Florida. If you're thinking of moving to Florida, from Florida, inside of Florida, anything in Florida, we're here for you. We've got Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm. Mike, how are you doing today?
I am doing great.
We got AJ Holman from the experiencedappraisers.com. How are you doing today?
Doing real good.
Good. And we got Jarrett Perry from the Perry CPA Group and Renegades Sports and Entertainment. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Once again, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day weekend, and happy Saturday.
Yes, happy Saturday. Hey, Mike, if somebody were to use I'm looking at an offer while we're talking on the phone. If somebody were to use, what type of financing is this? Hold on here.
Here we go. This is live.
Yes, we're doing live. If they're doing a conventional loan,
yes,
it doesn't say how much down. I'm not looking at the approval letter. How much seller concessions can they get?
Depends on the down payment.
Okay, so let's say it's 10%. 10%.
10%. I think the limit is going to be 6%.
Okay,
very similar to FHA.
And then 20% down.
9%, I believe.
You can go higher, so you can go higher.
Yeah. So you start, but you're going to start running into like your seller credit exceeding your costs.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't. A seller credit is considered an interested party contribution or an IPC. IPCs can't be used towards your down payment requirement. They can only be used towards costs. So what we call closing costs, prepaid items.
I hate those seller credits. I'm like, it's
seller credits are great.
Cost, right?
Seller credits are great because if you, let's say you get a $10,000 seller credit, that's $10,000 as the buyer that you don't have to bring out of pocket. Like that's covering your closing costs.
Right. But why? What's the
difference between that and a price reduction?
Yeah.
The price reduction doesn't leave money in your pocket. Yeah. The seller credit leaves money in your pocket. The price reduction does not, because most people are borrowing. In this case, they're borrowing 90% of the value. So if cash is what you want, the seller credit is much more favorable than a price reduction.
But the one thing you always have to remember is that basically you're financing the money that you're getting for the seller concession.
That's true.
Right. That's true. You are financing it.
And I also, depending on the market conditions and everything, if you're paying 9% more than the house is probably worth because they're giving you 9% back,
sometimes
you might have a problem with your appraisal.
Yeah. So one technique that buyers agents will do when they're negotiating with the listing agent and with sellers is they're saying, hey, we actually need money. We need some help with cash, right? The buyers are tight on money. We could use $10,000. As a matter of fact, we need $10,000, Jim. Otherwise, we can't buy this house. So you guys have it listed for $400. What if we offer you $410 and then get a $10,000 seller credit? So it's like your sellers, same thing, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. They get the same money, and we get that $10,000 of help we need. Yeah, we're going to buy it at $410, and we're going to finance 90% of that. So it's basically you're borrowing $9,000 more than you would otherwise, but that's a drop in the bucket on the payment, and we need the cash. Otherwise, we can't buy. So the question then is, well, like, is it going to appraise at $410?
Well, yes.
Well, and I'm, as an appraiser, I get the order over and I look and okay, this home was on the market for 45 days at 400,000.
Yeah.
And probably had 30 people look at it. And after that period of time, somebody decided it was worth $10,000 more than that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's just not.
I always wondered
reality.
about, so the appraisers, it only makes sense. I always wondered about that with the seller concessions in there. What about this term, AJ? I'm going to ask something else. What happens if there's a term saying we're going to give you $10,000 in seller concessions, but if the house doesn't appraise, I've seen this in the contracts, if the house doesn't appraise, the seller concessions come off first. Does that raise a red flag to you? Like even the realtors don't think this house might appraise because they have this caveat in there.
Not so much that.
No?
No, not for me. Because really at that point, it's all renegotiable anyway. So to put that clause in the contract is kind of dumb, I think. I guess I shouldn't use the word dumb, but what does it really buy you? Because everybody's going to have to renegotiate if it doesn't happen anyway. And let's face it then.
But it could be, it's beneficial, I think, when anytime you're concerned about appraised value compared to the value of the home, the purchase price, it might make sense to set up what we call a floor and or a ceiling, right?
Yeah.
And like, hey guys, if it appraises low, this is a chance. Everybody's on board with this. We agreed to pay $5,000 above appraised value up to the original purchase price. But also you should put some sort of floor. If it appraises below a certain number, then we're going to basically open negotiation.
And
so
it
some people
amazes
like
me.
to figure, negotiate that part of it in advance.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And definitely with the floor too, because I think it's hilarious when I'll see a contract and it'll say if it appraises low, we'll make up the difference.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay, how about if I appraise this for $10?
That's right.
Now you're out of contract.
Right.
Like,
oh yeah.
Not that I'm going to do $10.
I run into the basis. If it's $300,000 with a $10,000 concession, is their basis 300,000 or is it 290?
Interesting
with
question.
Closing cost of an extra $10,000.
Yeah, and that probably leads into this capital gains conversation, which is what's your starting
exactly
basis
right.
point. But I think like on AJ's saying, in my view, the appraiser should be able to give a value even if they didn't have the purchase contract.
Correct.
Right. So it's kind of like me. It doesn't matter what you've negotiated as far as price, as far as concessions, whatever. The appraised value should be kind of independent from that. And of course, they'll say, well, why did you give them the contract? And the reason is because there's things in the contract that are important for the appraiser. There's also they do have to list seller concessions. Like that's a requirement.
Oh, yeah,
if it's negotiating the deal, it has to be taken into account.
It's required that we see the contract. It's required we know the purchase price, the effective date, any concessions.
Yeah.
That's basic requirements for all the federal loans.
Yeah.
Now, absolutely. If I go in blind, is that harder? And would my number be different? I'm not supposed to let that influence me at all. And I do my best to not let it influence me.
And you have
but
tools that help you like make that. It's not completely subjective, right? Like you have tools that you're using that
100%.
help you identify comps and help you identify adjustments. And of course you're tweaking things and fine tuning.
And sometimes they'll be off. And, I actually had one last month where an attorney called me and said, hey, you did this appraisal and I've had some people looking at it and they tell me that you're too high. And I went back over it again, looked at it and I said, no, they're all wrong. I'm sorry. And that's the thing about doing it for a long time and having the experience, and which is why I named the company that way, is you've still got to be able to look at it independently. Aside from all this contract, all this concessions, all that, at the end of the day, is it worth it? Maybe that seller did, maybe they had it listed low and they did, maybe it really is worth the 410.
Yeah.
I'm not saying just because I see that concession, I'm not going to make that number at 410 or 420, but it's something I'm going to look at, and if there's 9% concessions, I'm going to have a real hard time believing that that's realistic.
I want to talk to you more about dated properties and appraisal, but I want to switch over to Jarrett first. First, we're going to talk about capital gains. So I'm going to use the thing I want to teach today because capital gains can get very deep, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to do is just keep it really simple based on what most of my customers ask, because I know there's a lot of people out there listening that might be selling a house later that would like to know this information.
And it's been a while since we've gotten back to the basics.
It has. So let me just do the overview real quick. And you tell me if I passed or not from Jarrett Perry's lessons over the years. Okay. So when you homestead, in order to claim a homestead exemption for tax purposes, you have to have lived in the home for 2 of the last 5 years, but the 2 years do not have to be consecutive.
Correct. And you have to not just, it has to be lived in as your primary
residence.
And there is partial exclusions.
Well, let's not get into that because I get what you're saying with that. But let's just say just in general for homestead claim.
Correct.
So when you say it has to be your primary residence, that's you're stating a claim, stating basically in the state of Florida, you do it through homesteading, but you say, hey, this is my primary residence. I live here. It's not my second home. I live here full time. And to live there full time, you have to show that you've been there 6 months out of the year, correct?
You have to show that you live there for a 2-year period within 5 years.
5 years. So if I own the house for 5 years and I lived there for the first year, right?
Yep.
Now I'm in there 5 years now. Okay.
Yep.
Lived there the first year. I run it out the second year, the third year. And then the fourth year I move back in and I stay there all the fourth year, all the fifth year, right? I'm good. I'm homesteaded, correct?
You're
because I
Your
lived there
homesteaded,
3 years out of the 5.
But when you placed it into property, when you placed it into service as a rental property,
Mm-hmm.
and you took depreciation on it, if you have a gain on the sale, you can still exclude a big chunk of it, but what you've depreciated, you have to recapture.
Okay.
Meaning you have to pick it up as income because you got
right. You gotta say, hey, that during those 2 years, I made some money.
I took 15,000 in deductions. Now I got to pick that back
pick
up.
it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does
now
that count for all the expenses or just the depreciation expense?
It's just the depreciation expense.
So that was
you got an ordinary deduction. So they want you to recapture that at an ordinary tax rate.
So let's say that we had a married couple. They lived in the house forever.
Happily, or
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter either way.
That
right?
still happens.
They're fighting
So
every night.
So they just a regular couple. They've lived there forever. Now they're selling it. Right.
Yeah.
It's 10 years from now. Let's say they bought the house at 200 and now it's worth 500. Okay. Because they paid down over the 10 years they never took out a refi or anything. They only owe 100 now.
Yeah.
They're selling it for 5. So let's just say that
and that's really all that matters. All the mortgages and the loans, people get confused with that and they think, oh, I had a loan I had to repay. Is my gain. Your gain is based on sales price less your cost.
Acquisition cost?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
So cost. So let me ask you this: if this would be a cost that would qualify for exemption or not? Interest on your mortgage payments over the 10 years.
Trick question.
Okay. Okay. Talk to an accountant. We'll put an asterisk. Say
It's
talk
a
to your
trick
accountant.
question.
Okay. Then let me ask you this:
Not
property.
on a primary. It will typically.
It's a primary residence.
Primary residence interest is taken as a deduction each year as an itemized deduction.
I see. So you don't do it at the
Investment
end.
property you can capitalize.
Only homestead. We're talking about homesteaded
So
property.
ignore
So
what I
no.
just said.
So the answer is no. Okay. What about property taxes?
Property taxes are a deduction. You take them on as an itemized deduction on your
Each year.
primary. Yes.
What if
Each
you
year.
don't itemize?
Oh,
Then-
wait. Let me keep going. I got more. Okay, because these are all things people ask me.
Yeah.
What about repairs to the house over the years? I put on a new roof. I put impact windows.
Improvements are added to your cost basis. So anytime you improve the value of the home, you're adding to the value of the home.
Is the cost the basis or is the value the basis?
What you originally pay for the house, what the purchase price is your starting cost. If you paid any closing cost on a purchase, then those would be added to your basis. Any other improvements done to help the value of the property.
What about insurance for the house?
Insurance for the house is non-deductible.
It's non-deductible. So you definitely get, assuming that you took off taxes for your interest and property taxes as you own the home.
Correct.
Then at the end, when you're selling it, you could take off for any improvements that you did, added onto the basis, which would be in this case, the 200,000 purchase price.
Yep.
And then what was the other thing I just said? I was trying to remember the improvements plus what?
Yeah, I don't want to. The question I was saying. So let's say you spent 80,000 to add an addition, but it's increased the value by 120,000. So is it only the cost, or is it the value of the improvement in the market?
It's the cost, because you only get basis for things you're economically at risk.
Okay.
for.
And the other thing is, Mike, you're getting a higher price for the house because of that addition.
Okay.
So it probably you get it there. You know what I mean?
Well,
If-
no,
you know
I
what
think
mean?
I know what he's talking about, which is what I do all the time, which is the difference between the cost of an item and the market reaction to that item.
Yeah, that's your
So if I put
appreciation.
in a $50,000 pool, and I know everybody's thinking there are no $50,000 pools anymore, but that's my point.
I've got one. It's above ground.
But if I
Couple
know,
holes in it.
let's say I know the pool. Let's say I know the pool guy. It's an old friend of mine. He puts in a pool for 50 grand, but it adds 100 grand to the value of my home.
Right.
That was your point, right?
Yeah. Is that
Yeah, if
100
you had
grand the
some
cost?
cash
No.
under the
Okay.
mattress and you did some improvements.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
All
you have to be you have to be able to prove
Expenses.
So
Okay.
can you also, so if you can take off the closing costs when you bought the place as, as a deduction, can you also do the closing costs on the back end when you sell it?
any cost associated with the sale are a reduction to the gain.
Okay.
So yes.
So
What about
and
costs for maintenance over time?
If it's an improvement to the property, then it's an improvement. You can add. If it's maintenance, then it's not. It's
Keeping it in its
Oh,
current
so
state.
like
the-
lawn cutting or pool service
like
might not
lawn
be maintenance.
improvements.
No, lawn cutting.
Lawn cutting.
No.
So
okay.
the new pool you can take the cost off, but the new roof you can't
New
because a roof
No
is
roof you
maintenance.
can't.
No, new
No
roof, is an
would be an improvement.
It adds value to the
But cleaning the pool would be a cost, just like a maintenance thing.
repair. Yeah, maintenance.
It would be a maintenance.
Okay.
And then, so we also didn't talk about this, which is basic 101. When you're a single person, you own a house in its primary residence, you can get up to $250,000 in, I call it profit, without being taxed. As a married couple, it's 500,000, correct?
Correct. There's
Okay.
a $250,000 what they call Section 121 primary residence exclusion on the gain on the sale, and if you're married and you file a joint return, it would be 500,000.
Isn't it important when people buy or sell a house in a year that when
Thank God.
they go to the accountant, an accountant let them know that they had a real estate transaction that year? Is there a benefit of doing that? Let's say that people normally just go and file themselves, or they go to one of the local,
Yeah. Tax preps.
regular tax places.
Yeah.
And they don't really, it isn't a big deal to them about like, hiring an accountant. Would they want to hire an accountant, talk to an accountant that year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's multiple reasons why they'd want to talk to somebody, CPA that really understands it. One of them is, if you go to a walk-in place, they're going to ask you for your HUD from your sale and your HUD from your purchase.
CD.
Yeah, a
We don't
closing
use the HUDs
document. They don't
anymore.
call them HUDs
Yeah,
anymore, right?
we don't.
And they're going to, use the numbers. They're going to ask you for your purchase price and your sales price, and they're going to work with whatever you give them. I know that you probably had some improvements over time, and I also know that the majority of people understate and don't remember
A lot of
their
it, right?
improvements.
They
So
don't.
if they come to me and they've been a client of mine, I always tell them, look, if you're doing improvements to your house, you're never going to remember what you did.
Mm-mm.
So start a folder, put an album in your phone, and just take a picture of the improvements you do. And just at the end of the year, when we do your taxes, send them to us and we'll scan it in your file. And if you ever sell that house, we have all the stuff.
Yeah, like people forget, like when I ask them,
They forget $20,000.
Yeah,
things they
easy
did,
stuff, right?
10 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yep,
and they're like,
exactly.
call me back, and they're like, wait a second, I spent $25,000 2 years ago. I forgot about it. And you're like, what?
Now,
Jim, Nick on the comments is saying,
Oh,
hey,
I'm
can we list all those capital gains deductions again?
Yeah,
I think probably it's like
capital
talk
gains.
to your CPA. So the deductible items that you just went off,
so
right?
closing cost, and then really improvements, not maintenance. So anything that really you can say added value, it increased the value by doing it. to
so
your
if you
property.
had a landscaper come in and make beds and add plants to your property
Yeah.
and things, that would be an improvement. But the guy coming to cut your lawn every week would be a maintenance issue. That would not be included.
Same thing like the pool.
And
If
then-
adding the
right.
pool's an improvement, like having the guy come and maintenance the pool is not an improvement.
What? I'm sorry, but just to help me clarify, what if I have to resurface the pool?
A resurface the pool's an improvement.
Okay, because it's like the roof.
Yeah,
Right,
and
it's-
a
right.
lot of times, that's adding value to the property. So
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of times it's if it's
Right.
over a couple $1,000s, you can kind of say that's an improvement, and get
Mhm.
away with it. But
And then, Nick, your closing costs, besides what we're talking about, also you can take off the closing costs for the purchase of the property and then the sale of the property on the back end.
yep.
And then again, so we're talking about capital gains. If you sell your home and you have a profit based on what we're talking about here, you may or may not owe taxes to the IRS. It's called capital gains tax. If you lived in your home 2 of the last 5 years as primary, you're exempt from capital gains with a profit. If you're single, if you profited 250,000 or less, or if you're married, 500,000 or less. So if your profit is in those margins, you're not going to owe capital gains. Now, if you didn't live there 2 out of the last 5 years, what happens?
If you didn't live there 2 out of the last 5 years and you choose to sell it.
Yeah, let me the like common scenario, somebody buys a home and then they sell it a year and a half later for whatever reason.
Yeah. If they sell it just because, they were single, they wanted to move, then you lose the full exclusion.
So you're paying full freight.
Yeah, you're paying full. It's basically treated as an investment.
And the gain is still calculated the same way. The question is, do you owe taxes?
Pay
Do you owe
taxes on it now?
Yeah. And if you sell before the 2 years for what they call
A hardship.
an unforeseen circumstance, a divorce, you had to move for work, medical, then you get a partial exclusion, which means the overall 250 or 500,000 is reduced based on that fraction of time.
I didn't know
gambling
about that. I've never heard
problem.
of that before.
Yeah.
Gambling problem.
Yeah.
Probably not
I
in
know.
there.
I'm joking, but when we were doing short sales, the reason I'm bringing that up, you don't remember, Mike, because you were on the show, but when we were doing short sales, gambling problem was one of the hardships.
That was one
you
of the
could break.
hardships?
Yeah, Paul
Really?
said it's legal. You could ask. Paul
Wow.
used to say that.
Then it
We
might
never
be.
did.
It might be in the
we
list.
never did, but it was on the list.
And
It's
then
a sickness.
I'm a
Jim.
gambler.
I think it's important to note too that even if you had a gain, if you're selling your primary and you have a $700,000 gain, let's say a capital gain, and you get the $500,000 exclusion, you can take that 200,000 if you don't want to pay taxes, and you can reinvest it into an opportunity zone. There's various other types of vehicles and ways you can reinvest that money and defer the capital gains.
Taxes.
So and reinvest.
And Jarrett does have several financial vehicles where if you have the extra money, you don't want to be like real estate investor. You have programs that, depending how much money they have, they can buy into a
fund,
like a real
or
estate fund or trust like that.
Opportunity zone for a business. There's a lot of things that are kind of reverse engineered for these to have the ability to defer the capital gains because it is part of your return on your investment. You're saving, substantial taxes by reinvesting.
And it's not even a loophole. It's just
this is all legal. This is all normal. Yeah. This is right. We're not doing anything shady.
It is why people think the rich, have more breaks than everybody else, because you have to be accredited to do a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they want you to be educated and not just throwing money into things you don't understand.
This is where Johnny would chime in and say, like, here's the trick, guys. You don't actually have to go to school and learn all this stuff on your own, right? You just need to know somebody who knows this stuff.
Thank
right?
you, Mike.
So you have
You're
to have
good
a trusted
today.
professional who knows all of it. Like you could call Jarrett on the phone, or hopefully, I don't know how busy he is.
No, you can call him.
I know his cell phone. Hey, shout out.
I'm getting that before I leave.
Hey, no problem.
But you guys got to know somebody who knows this stuff inside and out.
Yeah, you don't have to know. You just need to know the people that know it. That's what you got to know. But that's really important stuff. So if you have any questions on capital gains, you got to give us a call. And if you have money that you're like, oh my gosh, it's not protected and I want to defer it, you got to pick up the phone and give us a call. I'll get you right over to Jarrett right away, and he'll see if there's a good match for you out there.
We do educate. If you just want to learn we have educational things we do just to educate people on these, other alternative investments and ways to get out of these capital gains. So you can always reach out to Florida Talk Real Estate. If you want more, we can educate you.
888-973-7828 or floridatalkrealestate.com.
Or you can call the male porn site, whatever.
That's the other part Johnny would have done that I forgot. Give the phone number.
AJ, I just wanted, even though it's kind of quasi related about values and stuff, what I wanted to ask you was, everybody always asks us this, I put in a $40,000 kitchen in my house, so my house is worth more than $40,000 more now because I have the brand new kitchen. I want to flip it the other way. Okay. What happens if you have the 1977 kitchen in 2024? Everything's functional, right? Nothing's broken. It all works. None of the doors are coming off the cabinets. The appliances work, but it looks like that 70s show. Is there any like ding on the appraisal for having a house that's not updated? I've always wondered about like how you guys handle that.
Well, yeah, it's basically the opposite of what we do when it's renovated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way I see it, you've got a dated home that's fully functional. Well, you can finance that, right? So your buyer pool is larger.
Right.
Now, let's say 90% of the people that are going to buy that home are going to gut it.
Mm-hmm.
But what's sitting there now can be financed. Now, if you compare that to a home that, let's say, is missing the kitchen or has roof leaks or any of those problems, now that one has to be bought for cash.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a different market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So from an appraiser standpoint, we always approach all these things the same way. How much is kitchen worth? How much is the pool worth? All of it. We try to find homes that have that attribute and homes that don't have that attribute and figure out the difference. So if a home's dated, like you're saying, I can't just take 4 homes that are renovated, put them in the report and come up with a number, let's say $50,000, $100,000 and say, okay, this one's worth 50 or 100,000 less. I've got to show it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do is look real hard and find comps that also are dated, and
show the variance between the dated
Yes.
homes and the ones that are fixed.
Exactly.
Excuse me, fixed up.
Yeah.
Homes that sold.
Right.
Right.
Sold
That's the
homes
concept.
that
recently, close by,
Yeah.
and in competitive markets.
Yeah.
Right. So it will affect somewhat, but it
won't be as bad as the one that's missing the kitchen,
Yeah.
or that let's say not missing the kitchen. Let's say it's been rented for a really long time and they beat it up bad.
Mhm, like the doors are off the hinges and the appliances aren't working that great.
Yeah,
or
and,
something
and
like
half
that.
the
You got a
light
leak under the
switches,
sink, or
all
yeah.
that kind of. I go to
Yeah.
start turning on lights, and they're like, "Whoa, no, not on that side of the house."
Yeah, it's like-
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is really gonna be a big hit because of the different market.
And keeping in this vein, but the people that have the kitchen fixed up, right? So they look, this is a very common thing, and this is what I tell them, and I want to see if I'm off and when I'm telling them this, right? So they got the $50,000 kitchen that they just put in 3 years ago, and they're very proud of it, right?
Oh yeah.
And they point out that the other houses in the neighborhood can't compare to theirs at all because they've got new stuff compared to the other ones that don't. So ours is worth way, way more
Mhm.
because of that. And what I explained to them is, look, you are going to get a benefit for the upgraded kitchen, most probably, especially if there aren't as many upgraded kitchens in the neighborhood for recent sales. But the appraiser also has to understand that the ones that aren't fixed up, they still have a functional kitchen, and there's a value on that base value. So even though that you have a brand new fixed up kitchen, they're both functional kitchens. So you're not going to get the full spread that my kitchen is 50,000. My house is 50,000 better because I got the new kitchen.
Right.
Is that true?
People
Is that true?
never account for the fact that they tore out a $10,000 kitchen.
Aha.
Right. That's
To
the way
put
to
in
look
the
at to
50.
put in the 50.
That's one part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other big part of it is it an over improvement?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I put a $50,000 kitchen in my house, my townhome, I'm probably going to be okay. I'll probably get let's say about 50, maybe a little more from the sale. If I put $100,000 kitchen in my townhome,
You're not making it.
I've over improved it.
Yeah.
I've made a mistake. I might not get more than 60 or 70 extra.
Damn, there goes my gold toilet.
But we
One of my
always
gold
tell people,
toilets.
but you got to
themselves, right?
When-
Like when you improve it, it's like if you're gonna stay there, then you put it
right.
in that
You're going to get
crazy-
enjoyment out of
Yeah,
it.
personal use, I call it. Personal
Right.
use and enjoyment.
The people that look at this a lot harder are investors. So if I
Yeah.
go in and I buy a place, they should be looking really hard at what is the appropriate materials for me to put in this home. Should I do granite or should I do Formica? All the way down the line, everything, light
mhm.
fixtures, flooring, all of it.
Do you guys mind if we just power through the rest of the show?
No,
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I want to switch back over to Renegade Sports and Entertainment for a little bit of time. Man, this past year has been kind of a whirlwind for Renegade Sports Entertainment,
It
right?
has been for sure.
I guess the biggest success
Let's
story.
relapse. I mean, we started right before COVID, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Renegade Sports Entertainment started right before COVID, so great
Yeah.
time to start.
was
I
it was
did
a
that
tough
too. That
time.
was great timing. That was super exciting.
We got
One month
raised money, opened
before
a
it hit.
sports agency, and then COVID hits, and we got guys signed on stipend. So it was. We definitely have stuck it through and pushed through the hard times.
One of my favorite stories is Keon Ellis, and
Yeah, no doubt.
2 years ago, I sponsored Keon's draft party, And Jarrett, I don't think you went up there that day. I think you couldn't make it that day. I went up there. Yeah. So we went up there and I didn't know what I was doing. Kind of, I cut the check and was there to support Corey, who's the NBA agent, Corey Markham, and just trying to help everybody out. I didn't know what to expect. There were hundreds of people here at this banquet room, right? We're all waiting for the results, and we're waiting and we're waiting, and people are getting picked up and picked up and picked up.
We're heavily in, for lack of getting.
And then the draft ended.
Heavily in on Keon, really believing in him, invested, like ready to,
and
supposed to get drafted.
No draft, and I didn't know what would happen, and it was like a funeral at that banquet room afterwards, right?
Yeah,
people were
draft
crying.
Party,
right, it's a draft party. We went from highs to the high to oh my god, it didn't happen, and everybody feeling bad for him, and people were crying and upset and everything. And I'm just standing there like a zombie, like I don't even know what to do. Right? It's like, what do you do? Yeah. But the cool part about that whole thing is Corey called me, Keon's agent with Renegades Sports and Easy Sports
co-rep.
Yep, and Corey called me while I was at the hotel. He was in the room with Keon and the other player. I can't remember who the other player was. Yeah, that's right. It was Darius. And he was like, look, I've got multiple teams talking to us behind the scenes. He's going to be picked up in the G League, if not better.
Two-way.
Two-way. Everything's going to be good. He's going to be good, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, great, awesome. And that's kind of what happened. He did get picked up right away, but he didn't shoot as fast up as I know.
He got picked up in the G League on a two-way contract, which means he gets to play on the G League team, and then he gets to play some on the NBA team, right? And in the beginning, he was playing on the G League team and starting some and getting moved up and playing, a few minutes, 5 minutes, 10. But he would have, he'd play 5 minutes, he'd have 5 points, or he'd have, 3 assists or whatever. He was playing good, right? But that was last year,
right?
So he was on the two-way for the whole year, the year before, and he did great. He plays really good defense, and then they ended up drafting somebody in the same position this year that we were like, wait a second, what just happened? Why are they drafting another guy in that position? And and he was drafted to start on the NBA team. Well, Keon ended up, continuing to train, and we continued to believe in him, and he sure enough did his thing, man. And this year he made some major statements at the end of the year, especially as they were making a kind of trying to make a playoff run. Keon ended up becoming a starter and becoming a major leader for the team, and he got moved up. And he ended up signing a 2-year contract, and it's definitely been an exciting situation.
It's funny, the headlines, when I was reading the headlines, so I was following them a little bit while this was going to the end. First, it was who the heck is? Where did Keon Ellis come from? Right, because he was pretty well known when he played college, but 2 years later, that's an eternity.
For 2 years,
right? So he just disappears. Like, where did this guy come from? Then he was doing really well.
I mean, he's averaging 15 points when he got moved up. He's averaging almost 15 points a game, plus one of the best defensive players.
And assists too. He was doing everything, rebounds, assists, everything. Man. And then after a while, it was like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And then he signed. Then they signed the contract. And then a couple weeks later, he plays Curry, and he snuffed him,
shuts him down.
He snuffed him out, and then they were like, "How did they get Keon so cheap?"
And we were like so stoked when he signed the contract. And we were like, "Oh no,
he did too good." Yeah. So anyway, to me, that's why I'm part of the whole Renegade Sports Entertainment, is watching those kind of stories. To me, that's way more interesting than the sports itself.
The other success is Jacquez Patrick.
Yes, I was going to ask what's going on.
I mean, look, this guy was one of the top recruited running backs. He went to Florida State, played with
Go Ross.
Yeah. He played with the other running back, Dalvin Cook, and they split carries. And Jacquez ended up playing a little bit in the NFL, and then he went to the XFL, and he dominated. And absolutely dominated, and they brought him back up. Now he's with the Jets with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And he's one of their running backs. He's at camp right now. I just talked to him, and he said everything's going great. So, it's nice to see a guy go from the NFL, that goes down to one. There's not many now. You got the USFL or whatever it is. There's not many opportunities to go out of the NFL and to get back to it. And very few guys can do that.
Just only so many positions. He's a running back.
Back.
Yeah.
Jack West is just one of the guys, man. He is, he really proved himself.
Yeah.
And he's got a contract with the Jets.
Oh yeah. He's
Awesome.
there at camps on contract. Yeah.
Where's his, what's his home state? Florida still?
Yeah, he lives in Orlando, so
Okay.
we make sure he keeps that Florida residency for tax reasons.
Smart move. I know Jersey.
Yeah, it's definitely better. Unfortunately, they allocate it where they earn it, but there's ways with the contract to kind of shift the income around a little bit.
One of the things we want to make an announcement about Renegade Sports and Easy Sports is the new opportunities we have for all the athletes that are working with us. So there's a lot of NIL stuff, name and likeness stuff going on where they
name, image.
Oh, is it name, image, likeness?
Name, image, and likeness.
Likeness. What did I say?
No, that makes
Likeness.
NIL.
Yeah.
Name, image, likeness.
Yeah, what did I just say?
You said NIL, but then you said name and
in
likeness.
likeness. I didn't know his image. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on with NIL with the college players and even below college players, but also being part of the Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment Group. We have a new division called the Private Housing Network right now, which is a private portal. Any athlete or entertainer that has any kind of real estate needs.
Wait, do we count?
I'm sorry.
Are
you
radio?
An athlete? Well,
no,
what about
I'm an entertainer.
Are you thinking what belt are you?
No, I'm saying radio.
Oh, I didn't even think about entertainment stuff.
Yeah, radio personnel.
If you want the portal, we'll put you in the portal,
Mike.
But what will happen with these athletes, which is going to be great, and the entertainers, if they have any kind of real estate needs to buy or sell or invest or something like that, they can go in there. But it's so much more than that. There's a lot of athletes that Keller Williams right now is training either the athletes or their families to start real estate teams and companies so that when they're leaving, they have a whole company set up and running with their family members, and Keller Williams actually pay for all the training to get their licenses
and the cool
anywhere
thing
in the state of anywhere in the country.
Yeah. And the cool thing is we have guys that are literally wanting to get educated on this stuff. And so now we have a whole program,
we have a whole
platform, everything
for them,
to get them involved. They just don't know where to go. And most agencies or, anybody isn't going to provide that to them. So now they have a resource if they want to be in real estate. Well, while they're, doing their career, they can start getting educated on it the right way.
And there's a lot of need for commercial investing for these athletes because they've got money in the commercial. There's a lot of benefits of doing commercial investing versus residential investing sometimes. So we have a whole bunch of training. So if somebody says, hey, I want to buy land and build a development and I want to build my own community and I want to back the whole thing or bring in partners, we will show them from soup to nuts on how to do every step of the way, making sure they understand everything before they go forward, and we'll get them with the top professionals in that subject.
I didn't know they were doing commercial. I have somebody I could have already talked to you about.
Yeah, so we have great opportunities for these athletes. That's what makes Renegade Sports Entertainment a little different than the other agencies.
Completely different, yeah.
What Jarrett's whole philosophy about this company is not just to sign the contracts for the agents, say, see you in 3 years or see you in 2 years or whatever. What they want to do is get you in that contract and then figure out a plan for you how to get you where you want in your total future, not just your athletic career. And one of the things I'm very proud about Jarrett's group is that when athletes are done with their sports career, that doesn't mean necessarily they're done with Jarrett. Jarrett still wants to work with them continuously. And one of the things I like about Jarrett, I don't know how many of the retired NFL people that you still have in your ranks and still go to you just like when they were players, because he wants that long-term relationship. And how do you get that long-term relationship? How do you get that? By doing the right thing for people.
Yeah, they have businesses. They have to keep filing taxes because they listened and they wanted to start other forms to generate income. And they did that, and they listened, and now they have that. So, they're a lifetime client for all of us, So, we like to be able to provide that extra value, and especially with these NIL deals, it's a gray area. It's a new thing that's going on. These schools are getting these collectives, throwing these kids hundreds of thousands of dollars to commit to their university, and then they're having to renegotiate with them every year. The kid's going to hop in the transfer portal and go somewhere else and get paid. So
that's going to give them better NIL.
Yeah,
percentages
give them a higher.
They can basically shop
money.
themselves around as they get, just like, they can
we
move
had a
around.
kid that was in 7th grade that just got offered $1 million to commit to a college. They're
7th
throwing
grader.
major money.
Used to be you had to do that kind of thing under the table.
It's yeah. Well,
amazing.
Now that's what the collectives are. They basically brought it up, and now the big thing that they're saying now is, you got major boosters that are supporting the collectives, and then you also have, general public, but the collectives aren't all 501c3s. So if you have major boosters supporting it, they're not getting tax deductions, and they yank, your collective is going to be in bad shape. You're not going to, because that's where, if it's coming from a few boosters with a lot of money and they don't have a 501c3 where they get a tax deduction for putting money into the collective. That's what a lot of the boosters want, is that deduction.
Oh, that's why they're doing this for the.
Well, not all of them are tax deductible.
But
some of them are.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of regulation. They're trying to figure all that out.
I don't understand all of what's going on. I just know the massive changes. But when I'm hearing that, like, middle schoolers are getting 7-figure promises to go to college somewhere, they're in the 7th grade, I don't know how long this is going to be sustainable.
Well, it's got to be super rare. I mean, like, to identify
the one
middle
thing it does
schooler.
do is it helps agencies like ours, because it allows the kids to not have to worry about taking a bag under the table and choosing their agency based on who's dropping the biggest bag.
That was a very big surprise to me, just watching it from the outside, just being an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
Jarrett and his group would be negotiating with these kids. Everybody seemed to be on board, including the parents and everything, see all the benefits that they're offering, not just agency. And the next thing you know, somebody offered, a bag of money under the table, literally a bag of money. That's what we're talking about. Literally a bag of money. And then
lots of money.
And it's not legal.
Well,
and Jarrett's attitude is, and that's one of the things I love about it, is like, we're not doing that. You go someplace else, we're not going to get involved in that.
It's hard to compete against. It's hard to compete against people that aren't acting ethically. But like my father always used to say, when you're alone shaving in the morning, you've got to look at your face. You're the only one there, but you know it.
Yeah, and the cool thing this collective stuff allowed us to do is really show, look, we're not going to give you a bag because you're already getting a bag, but what we can do is help you keep a lot more of that bag.
Yeah, that's
right.
true.
By setting up the right entity and running it through there and eliminating, Social Security and Medicare tax, and we just have to get to them before they get the money. And that's the thing we've been really good at doing is putting that out there and educating the parents and the kids.
Yeah,
which I actually had a mom the other night on the phone with one of the players that's getting a nice collective say to me, "Are all the kids getting this type of advice?" And I'm like, no, they're not getting anything like this.
No.
You just happen to pick the right spot.
And it's back to helping them make informed decisions.
Yeah.
Hey,
you
guys,
really is. You guys mentioned the word bag a few times. Jarrett, are you in tune with there's a scholarship opportunities for cornhole at colleges at this level, right? And there's also, right? Can we get into the cornhole
NIL money?
Yeah,
NIL
I'm sure
money?
there is because there's no limit. Like it could be, $500, right?
Right.
Yeah,
something like that.
I still have one class left to get my master's in tax. I think I could go play some cornhole.
There is a school wherever the city where cornhole was invented, the college that's around there. They have a team and they have scholarship opportunities for cornhole. And of course, there's the professional league too.
It's a scholarship beer.
Yeah,
it could be.
Maybe. Yeah, I think
it comes in a cup like this.
I think that's a brewery that you were not a college.
No, it's actual
What
college.
were you saying, Timothy? Were you saying something?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought
Timothy, we're gonna have cornhole at your housewarming.
No, we won't.
Apparently,
I need to.
Should I bring it?
Sure, absolutely.
So
I have seen though the cornhole the scholarships.
Yeah,
that was in the news. It was a big deal.
It's a true story. Yeah, true story.
Oh, I thought you were completely
No, that's
kidding.
true.
Nope.
100%.
Well, maybe they have it for
so
fishing.
This
That's true.
university is the home of where
Wherever
cornholing was
cornhole
created.
came up.
I'm like,
Yeah,
why
maybe.
did they name it that?
Or no,
I'm
you
still
know,
having a
it
hard
might be
time.
where the ACL is based out of. So the
It's in your league.
cornhole league, wherever the,
Okay, like
wherever the league, their
national-
home city is, that's
Yeah.
the college.
Without looking it up, I could have sworn.
Is
it was
that
like
really
North
the
Carolina.
what is it the American Cornhole League?
Yeah. And it's got like you've never seen it on TV?
I wonder what the mascot is.
It's Johnsonville, I think, is their sponsor.
Oh my god! Oh my god! So, Jarrett, is there what's coming up? Like, what is coming up with the athletes between the NBA and NFL?
Well, right now
Well,
we've got
like-
Jet. We've got
Mhm.
Jet at Steelers minicamp.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got one of the players that just left he's there right now at Steelers minicamp, and hopefully he gets his invite back for the regular camp and makes the 52. And we've got guys that have already reported for football, for CFL, USFL, NFL. And then for basketball right now, we've got the training camp.
I know
that
I've been going
dealing
through heck.
with the Airbnbs. And so for people that don't understand, we hold training camps for football and for basketball. And in the future, we'll be doing it at our partner, Jalen Watkins D1 in Fort Myers. But this past year we did it in Atlanta, which required Jim and Corey to
oh my god,
get
find housing.
Airbnbs and in Atlanta, which there's probably plenty of Airbnbs, but you got to be very careful where you get them in Atlanta. And we have trainers out there, and there's probably over 10 guys.
I was
going
to say, how many guys are?
I think there's
confused.
12.
Yeah.
By the end we'll have at
They'll
least
have 12.
Yeah, and out there, and then we have one guy that's coming down the South Florida to train as well. But we got a nice group out there, and Jim and I will be going out there to talk to them. And that's the other cool thing is we educate these guys on real estate and on taxes and all this stuff while they're at training camps. We really want to help them, and the only real way to do that is proactively, is to get to them before they get the money and educate them.
Give them a trusted professional, like
Exactly.
somebody that they can believe in, has their interests in mind, and they can go to.
And that's why we want to go out there and we've talked to them on the phone, but also, take them to dinner and get to know them. So they feel comfortable calling us, and they have a question, they know they can call us and ask us. So
It's funny. The other thing I'm watching behind the scenes is, how you ever hear like in sports news about people that are considered problem childs and they don't want to be picked up, even though they're talented, the teams won't pick them up and stuff like that.
You guys
We're
were
dealing
associated
with
with one for a long
Well,
time.
no, I'm not
yeah.
going. I'm not going there. I'm letting that go. What I'm saying though is I'm letting that one go.
I won't.
But what I'm saying is I've watched Jarrett go, that's a problem child. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's going to be problems later. I just don't want to deal with it. And he holds his ground. He'll just say, nah, not worth it. It's not worth it. Even though the potential could be big, it's like he knows what might be involved in order to get there. And I really respect that.
In the long run, it doesn't pay off.
It
Right?
doesn't.
Sometimes, you end up with more headaches than you end up getting any benefit from.
I spent 8 years, almost 10 years trying to thinking I could change somebody. And that I learned a lot from that case.
Yeah.
You know what? All of us in our own industries can spot things that are going to take up time and energy that's like beyond normal. Like AJ, I'm sure can listen. I need to charge triple for this appraisal because I just know it's going going to be tough.
Yeah.
And same
Or
thing with
when you get
with
a
loans
tax
and
return
real
like
estate.
mine, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this guy, I'm smashing him.
It's going to be tough.
It
What do
could
I have
be-
to do?
it
I have
could
to
be-
look at articles of incorporation and see your admission. Like what?
It can be more important to know which business to walk away from than which business to go after.
Oh, for
you know.
sure.
Oh, there's the
Hey,
music now.
so we're wrapping up another show. Thank you, everybody. If you have any kind of real estate questions, tax questions, appraisal questions, refi questions, mortgage questions, all in one phone call. 888-973-7828. You can go to floridatalkrealestate.com, fill out your information there. We will call you back. Our hotline is a 24/7 live operator service. You just leave your message with them, and we will give you a call back. Me personally, Jim DePola, I will call you back and get you to the right people. hope you guys have a great Mother's Day. You got things planned?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Surprises, apparently.
Yeah, it's going to be surprises.
Well,
for
now
everybody.
that he knows he has to do for everybody, he's going to be busy
For Mike,
today.
too.
Better stuff for the kids to give the mom.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, Timothy. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. Yep. Gonna have a little open house at the new place. Glad to have
Awesome.
you over.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you, AJ, for coming in. Thank you, Jarrett.
It was a
And
pleasure.
don't thank Jimmy D because he doesn't know what he's doing.
No, thank you, Jimmy D.
Happy South Florida, guys. Have a great weekend.
Happy Mother's Day. Happy South Florida.